Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Seafarer Social Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I'm speaking to another fantastic seafarer. This is Robert Szymeczko. Robert is a loyal seafarer that's been working with BP for around 18 years. He transitioned from sea to shore successfully, and he's one of those rare seafarers that have actually maintained loyalty to one brand, which I think is very powerful in today's world. And something that we're going to talk about a little bit more. But before we get into things, firstly, Robert, how are you?
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, all good this side, and thank you very much for the invite. Especially taking into account how powerful guests you had before. I'm a big fan of your podcast, by the way. Yeah, all good here, all good. How is your day?
It's a brilliant weather today. So yeah, feeling good and looking forward to talking to you. I've been looking forward to doing this podcast for a while because I think there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. But I guess the best place to start would probably be to learn a little bit more about how this all started for you. So tell me about the how you were influenced originally to consider a career in maritime.
Right, so we should probably start at the beginning. So it was relatively easy decision for me because my grandfather used to work at sea in the Navy. My father used to work at sea in merchant Navy as a chief engineer. So when I was thinking about the decision, okay, what should I do? I had quite a well, well-drawn career path. And at the time, the seagoing career was offering quite a good money to compare with other opportunities for a young Polish man right after the school. So I asked my father, how is it at sea? How does it work? He gave me very good advice to be a deck officer because they don't do much on the bridge, and the engineers are obviously the hardworking people on board ships. Turned out to be a fair balance between those two, but I took his advice and I joined the deck side, and yeah, this is how it all gets started, to be honest.
Nice. And you said I believe your grandfather was also a seafarer. He was in the Royal Navy, and then your father was in the Merchant Navy, right?
Yeah, correct.
So what was your father's rank?
So my father was a chief engineer, the top man in the engine room. He likes to say he almost ran the ship, but there was this master in the background who was listening to him or taking his advices. But it always brings a nice banter whenever we have like a family dinner. There's always this, oh, deck guys do this and this, or engineers do this and this. So there's always a funny part to it, yeah. But my grandfather, I can't remember the exact rank, but I think he was a bosun on one of the, like a small torpedo ship.
Nice. Okay. And on this podcast, we speak to seafarers from around the world. This is the first time we spoke to somebody from Poland, a seafarer from Poland. So I guess it'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about when you were younger and maybe a little bit now as well, if you have that information. What has your country done to promote the maritime careers? Is it something that's in the school's career offices? Are they telling kids that this is something there's an opportunity for in the future, or is it not something that's very well known?
So obviously it was very easy for me coming from seafaring family, and I was born in Gdynia as well, which is very seafaring city with maritime university, port, and lots of your friends had fathers at sea, friends at sea, and so on. So it is a thing. Thinking Poland as a whole, we only really have like two marine hubs, which is Gdynia and Szczecin. So it's not that much when you compare it with other countries. I think there is probably a bit more that can be done to promote seafaring careers. I don't think it was that much promoted at that time, but we have to remember 18 years ago, there wasn't that much of a social media and internet and everything.
Sure.
So it was more in the space of you were some students visiting high schools and studying something. But yeah, probably a bit more can be done in this space. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's just a Poland problem. I think that's a worldwide problem, actually. Most countries have not done enough to promote this career option to young people, both sea and ashore, actually, especially from the seafarer's perspective. So let's talk through your career journey then. So you've been with BP. It's the only employee you've ever had for the
Yeah.
last 18 years. What happened to get employed by them, and then take me through that journey you had with them at sea and then transitioning to shore.
Yeah. So, I'm aim at the best and being the best. So at Marine Uni, I heard about BP cadetship, and it was a bit more difficult to get on the cadetship program. Probably some people have different opinions, but it was said, oh, that the best cadets will get to BP. So I said, okay, I need to get BP cadetship, and I managed. In 2006, I joined my first ship that was like a VLCC, a very large crude carrier, 340 meters long, 60 meters wide, massive ship for a young man who never stepped on a proper cargo ship before. Then I progressed through the ranks with them. As a cadet, third officer, second officer, chief officer. I did my master mariner certifications. But at the stage when I was a chief officer, I joined like a program that BP was offering. Was not easy to get on it as well. As well a selection process. But it was a program supporting people who would like to one day make a career transition ashore. Part of the program was actually doing the online studies. So I completed Open University Leadership Management Studies thanks to this. And program was not giving you a guarantee of a job ashore, but was kind of like a first step to have a taste, and opportunity came to actually join the London team here in London, because I live in London now, as a EUMRV. So leading the project about emissions. At that time, it was about reporting and verification of the emissions from our fleet. So I made this brave move, a half year. Project was very nicely embedded. I handed over to environmental team. So professionals who actually know more about environment rather than ships. Then I joined the commercial team here in London, voyage operations team. And just to give you a perspective, at the beginning I was a voyage operator, so looking after my ships. Later I was coordinating the team of 8 operators. So every day we had like 100 ships on the water with 100 cargoes. So you count the net worth of all this. It was crazy. And it was like very dynamic pace here with the trading teams, traders, charterers. So almost like a Wolf of the Wall Street, if you can imagine. A lot of screens, people running, shouting, leadership here and there. Interesting pace. But then, what will be like 2.5 years ago, I moved to more technical role on our production and offshore arm of BP. So at the moment, as a marine systems advisor, I support our offshore operations, and actually now coordinating the team of marine advisors. We support marine operations globally. So exciting times here in BP, and it's all still in BP.
Nice. Did they do anything in particular? Is there specific parts in the last 18 years that you remember where you were like, I want to stay with this company? You know, was it the opportunities they gave you? Yes, I know, you know, everybody needs a competitive salary, but sometimes that's not enough of a reason to stay at one company, because you could earn good money elsewhere. Is there any specific things outside of your salary that BP done where you were like, no, I want to stay with these guys. I trust these guys. I feel like I'm part of this brand.
Yeah, and I think there's lots of good companies, major oil companies, and very good owners. Actually, you feel supported throughout your career, so you have lots of courses that help you develop your skills. But I think probably the most important part, which I'm always proud about working in BP, is around the approach to safety. From the day one, it was the biggest priority on board our ships. And you're always encouraged to stop any unsafe operations and unsafe activities. And, it's just, that's just words. It actually goes through actions. I have seen ships having stopping for extra few hours to take the proper rest for the seafarers, because so you've got this proper support to safe operations, and it's critical because you're working in very high risk environment, and every day you're risking your life, so you want to be sure you will go back home in one piece.
Yeah, sure. That's really interesting. I haven't heard someone say that before about a shipping company. One of the main reasons why you've stayed with this company is because they've always prioritized safety. That's a really interesting angle to look at it. And the fact that they stopped the ship in times for a couple of hours just so their seafarers can have rest, I think is a very important lesson that a lot of shipping companies can learn from. You know,
Yeah,
I read somewhere just recently that the average seafarer has around 4 hours sleep a day. 4 hours sleep, and around 4 hours and 45 minutes of time spent in bed, and only 4 hours of them asleep. And we don't know how much of those 4 hours are actually high quality sleep. So yeah, I think that's a really really interesting point. And ultimately, you know, you are the perfect example of someone who was treated but in a specific way by the employer, and now reaping the rewards with that loyalty, which is difficult to get nowadays. But how was BP's reaction when you explained to them, look, I want to transition to a shore based role now? Did they support you?
yeah, and I would probably even say at the beginning it was like a little bit of other way around actually. So this program for transition ashore was announced, and at the beginning I did not really see myself working in the office, but
Mm,
that kind of, I think in many moments in my life I don't really, it's the wrong way around. I have my ears open, eyes open, and something is brought to attention. Oh, that's interesting. Let me think about it. I did some thinking, and it pretty much aligned with the time when I got my first kid. And when you have children, you start realize like probably the downside of work at sea when you actually have to leave your family when
yeah.
your family grows bigger and bigger, it's more and more difficult. So it kind of aligned those two moments, and I thought, okay, why don't I give a try, and get on the program. After you say A, then you say B. So step one was made, and then actually, I started studying this leadership stuff. Opportunity came up. I thought, okay, why don't I give a try? So it was actually BP driven, especially at the beginning. BP was asking the fleet, do you have any people who are interested and keen? So it was actually coming from the officers, which is probably good.
Yeah, I think that is good because what BP is showing there is that they see the value in having people from the seafarers, essentially having them in the office, because they have, I imagine, that perspective that they wouldn't be able to emulate from just getting someone, a regular guy from the shore based role. How did you find that transition? One of the things I find when I speak to seafarers sometimes about this is when you ask them about life after sea, some seafarers have said to me, oh, well, I'm just a seafarer. I'm just a seafarer. You know, how am I going to cope? Who's going to want me? How did you find that transition from going to that as a seafarer to a shore-based role? Was it difficult? Was it challenging?
Oh yeah, it was challenging. It was changing, and in quite a few ways. Completely different work pattern, first of all. So being at sea, we had 3 months at sea, 3 months at home, which is a very nice setup for seafarer. But we have 3 months of very hard work when you really give like 150% out of most of us. And then you've got a period when you have full rest. You are not concerned about work, apart from maybe some courses, but you are fully committed to what you like. So, you imagine after I was really working very hard 3 months in the office, and I was like pretty much ready to pack my bags and go for 3 months holiday. And then it turns out, oh, Rob, you know what? It will be like that forever until you retire. I said, oh, wow. So I think at the beginning I had to like learn a little bit to, you know, slow down a little bit. Let's put it this way. Like actually uh, enjoy more weekends. Weekends became your new time off. So I was like, oh, need to make this switch. The probably difficult part is when you are at home in the sea work pattern. You can properly switch off. You can forget. It's like a different life almost. Here you bring your work to home. Unfortunately, you can't really stop it. It will stay in your mind over the weekend. You will keep thinking about this project or something there, and something will come up. Um, so that's probably the tricky part, which I had to learn to work my way. But I would say the most difficult part I found was actually the career path. The seafaring career path is like written in stone for ages when you go from a third officer to second officer.
Yeah, sure.
what is my career path? Okay, it is second officer. That's only one option. Or how do I become a second officer? You complete checklist, two checklists, and you get two recommendations. Super clear. You got points, complete points from the checklist. You get recommendations. Okay, I'm ready for promotion. There is a space for you. You are promoted. Work in the office. What's my next job? It's like a palette of optional jobs.
Yeah.
Different departments, different options, higher, lower. Okay, so you made this final decision. I want to join the voyage operations. What do I need to do? There is no checklist. There is no. So you have to start networking, finding out what those guys do, what kind of skills are required, how can I prove to my future manager that I'm actually, will I be good in this, So it's so much more difficult. They keep asking you, what's your plan for the next 3-5 years in your career? And like, oh my God, I barely managed to figure out what's my next one. But with the time, it becomes easier and easier. We've got much better picture, and it becomes obvious what are your gaps. I'll probably start with what are my gaps. You have some ultimate goal, being a boss of the bosses, something, the sky is the limit, I think, for most of us. But it will tell you, this is my gap. I have never done any commercial role. I don't know much about chartering or operations. Should I try to get something in this space? This is how that's the difficult part. And, thinking about okay, what kind of skills or where I had gaps at the beginning. There is, if you have the right people with you, they will help you a lot in the office. I remember my first presentation I was about to do for the management about the emission project, and I had very good mentor, Andy. So I thought I made this, amazing presentation in PowerPoint. And he just looked at this and said, like, oh, Rob, this is like a pile of, I'm not gonna, he's an ex-seafarer as well, so you can imagine.
Swear, you can swear.
But and I was like devastated because I thought I did such a great job. I was working very hard on it, I was like, no, this is like complete, it's really bad, At the beginning, I was like very personally offended, how can it be, But you know what? I bite the bullet. I made the corrections with his suggestions, and okay, still was not perfect, Now, just out of interest, I looked at my presentation from 6 years ago. Oh, this was really bad. I will probably sack myself. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad. Even after the correction, I think I could have done so much better. But I know this now from after a good few years in operating in office environment, meeting so many great people. You learn every day pretty much, But I wouldn't be worried about, like you mentioned, I'm just a simple seafarer. You've got the core, which is very important. To be a seafarer, you have to have very strong self-discipline. You have to be able to cope with stressful situations, decisions, quick decisions. You have to be very well organized. These skills are the core which can very nicely set you in the office environment. I think many people are surprised because we are very efficient as ex-seafarers. We just go, this is ordered, boom, 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 done. Some people will just think about it, procrastinate, and after 2 weeks, it's maybe halfway done, and we have it done in 1 day. So, and yeah, there will be some gaps, but thanks to this core and the base you built working at sea, just overcome this one quite easy. Not easily, but you will overcome.
I think there were some absolute golden chestnuts in there, Rob, because you mentioned a few points that I've thought of in the past and some that I haven't. I want to take you back to the first thing you said, which was about the holiday.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of people say this actually. It's one of the things they struggle with the most. And in some circumstances, I've heard where the wives and the children have said, "We wish you were back at sea because when you came home, you were home." And you're right. When you're working in corporate or whatever, you can never really switch off. You kind of live in that middle zone. Being able to
yeah,
switch off
true.
alone in itself is a talent, actually, I think, because it's very difficult for some, especially when they're so driven to succeed with their job. So actually seafaring in that regard, I've heard can sometimes create, great parents because they get that time off. The second
Well,
point you made, please.
no, we were definitely great parents, me and my wife, even in the seafaring mode.
Yeah, no, of course,
Of course.
I agree totally.
I'm gonna have my kids later.
Regarding the career option point as well, I haven't heard of someone say that before, but that's really interesting angle that you've given there. So what you're saying is when you go into seafaring, it's easy to understand what you've got to do to get to the next level, but once you work on land, you're right. It's kind of like a guessing game, and who
Yeah,
is it one project that you do really well could excel you to the next level, or you might have to slug it out for 5 years. You just don't know, right?
exactly. And I think it's depending on your character, for people who are especially much more in the introvert mode and much more quiet personality, I think that they may find it very difficult because very often no one will actually show you this clear path. You have to take this step out and outside of your comfort zone and start seeking this knowledge, getting this network. Where at sea it's literally written in the procedure. You have to do this and this.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the most powerful point you made was the last point, and that was that actually a lot of employers, if they understand the value of what a seafarer can bring to their company ashore, I think a lot of them would chew their hands off to have the opportunity to have someone on board, someone in office from sea, because you're right. There is a different level of discipline that comes with a seafarer, and they don't think about it, they get it done. And I think that's very powerful, especially when you work at a big company and there's deadlines and things need to be done. There's no, oh, but what about this? But what about that? And procrastination. It's no, let's get this done. And I think that's really powerful. And maybe that message alone is one that we should translate to seafarers more, just to reaffirm how much value they could bring to
Oh,
the
yeah.
working world.
And I think there is as well, which I did not mention. I think the most important is the core. This is something which creates a seafarer. I've seen this very nice caps, like, office caps. I've seen worse. I've been at sea, so people are
Yeah.
panicking here because of something, and, okay, we've been through the storms when I was thinking I'm gonna die, or I had a fire on board or something, it's like, what are you panicking about? But I think there is as well one more other thing which comes with your seagoing experience. So it's very unique experience, especially when you think about European countries nowadays, because there is not that many seafarers anymore. You really bring very unique experience to the office. Some people think from working at sea, okay, I need to become a master or chief engineer before I actually get to the office job. And I would say, yes, it will much easier find a job with this senior experience, very senior experience from the sea, because there is lots of roles for ex-captains, ex-chief engineers. But at the same time, I moved from chief officer role with master ticket, but it was good enough. If you are already in the senior management from the sea, and you already have a vast experience and knowledge from sea operations, and it opens up amazing amount. And I know vice presidents, directors of the companies who made a transition at like a second engineer or chief officer level. So I think it's a perfect moment. At the same time, you might be thinking, oh, okay, what is Rob talking about? I'm just a junior officer. I'm not having enough experience. You are wrong. You actually have an amazing experience already. So you've been at ships, you have seen operations, you know what is being talked about when you join the conversations with the charterers, brokers, and so on. So we had very good examples of junior officers joining our voyage operations team. It brings completely different level of conversations between because you are effectively like a link between the vessel and the commercial world. So knowing exactly what is master worried about, you can actually translate this properly to the commercial teams in the office. So, and that's like very unique experience for them, for the trader or for the trading officer. Push one button on the send email or clean the tanks for jet cargo,
Yeah.
But when you've been at sea, it is like good 4 or 5 days of hard work for the whole crew, so it's not just like one click. So, and you bring this experience and you can challenge this or open a conversation with the trader. Well, but we need a few more days. Did you know that? Okay. And at the same time, if it's really needed, you have these conversations with the master of board, and you knowing what it takes, you approach it with the appropriate respect and you give appropriate reasoning, because we'll be able to bring some another cargo which will bring some proper profit from the company. But having some of this seagoing experience gives you this knowledge, and you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're a great role model for empowering those seafarers that are interested in making that transition. I think just speaking to you alone, you've given so much great advice. I would ask one question, and that would be, if there was one thing you had to say. Let's just say you come across a random seafarer who you met in a coffee shop in London who was on vacation, and he said, I've been thinking about making that transition to a shore-based role. I want to see my family more, etc. What would be the one piece of advice you would give that seafarer?
Be brave. Fortune favors the bold, they say. But yeah, I would say be brave. There's nothing will happen in your life if you don't step outside of your comfort zone and don't make this first step. So I would not recommend, okay, I write resignation next day to my company and I will start looking for office jobs and hurrah. But make this first step. So write up your CV in the way that will attract some aimed at office roles. There's lots of like fast, a few others. Send the CV there, show some interest. I would say probably the safest and the easiest place to look for is your own company. That as a seafarer, you'll be shocked how many people work in the office to make these things running. I was shocked personally. To me, it was always like, oh, this office guy calling me to do some difficult stuff, and why do we need to do it? And then you realize it's an army of people making things running. So trying to contact your superintendent, or there's very often there are opportunities to meet some office people there, like we did in BP, like a sea staff conference. So take this opportunity, build this network, find out what they do. Is there any opportunity to join ashore, And even if you take a career break for 1 year to see how it is in the office, you can very easily come back to the sea, You will not lose your license, but you can give it a try, When I did my move, I was like on the secondment option, so I had a way back just in case office did not work for me. And my family was in Poland, I was working in London, so I was flying back and forth. But we didn't make a crazy move, I did not pack my family, okay, we go to London next day, sell house and all that kind of stuff. So be brave to make this first move. Give it a try. You don't like it? Fair enough. You can very easily come back to seafaring experience, Yeah, that will be my advice. Be brave.
Yeah, great bit of advice. It's clear that seafaring is obviously something that's close to your heart. You come from a family of seafarers. You are a seafarer. I also read that you ran the London Marathon for the Seafarers charity.
Yeah,
This is something that I did for Sailor Society back last year.
respect.
Yeah, last year. How did you find that experience? It's difficult race, right?
It is. It's the first and I think last marathon I did in my life. Don't get me wrong. I did actually run it. I think 4 hours, 34 minutes. So I had to actually run it. So much time you need to spend on training for this. So I think this can be used in better way. So I still keep running, but shorter distances. But I feel like personally, I want to do more. I want to give more. And, I had lots of support from, I didn't mention it earlier, but during the ship shore transition, I had support from Marine Society, which is a charity organization as well, who was they were coordinating my studies. So they did a great job. I think throughout my career and life, I was given a lot of trust and support. So I try to give it back. So Seafarers, the charity is doing amazing job supporting seafarers. So I thought, okay, I'll try to do something crazy to support them. And yeah, running marathon, I think is a crazy thing. So well done to you, Carl, for surviving this one, you know.
Which year did you do it?
It was only last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
so sweet. So we ran the same race then. We ran the same race.
Did we? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's a small world, isn't it?
I don't know about you, but I found once I got to Canary Wharf, that's when it was like, oh my God, this is tough.
Yeah. I think I did very well until 30th kilometer. I was like smiled and cheering, keeping very good pace. But the last 10K was actually very painful. I was mentally trying to run faster, but my legs were saying no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough.
I was the same, but what I would say to anybody who's listening, who's ever considering running a marathon, please try and get in the London Marathon. I know it's difficult to do it, but if you can, you should definitely do it because, and I'm sure this resonates with you as well, Rob. You see so much amazing people around you, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
when you just look at the back of people's t-shirts or at the beginning when they're doing the festival before you start, and you're listening to everybody's reasons why. It's so powerful, you know. I'm running for my grandfather. I'm running for my son. I'm running for someone's got a fridge on their back and they're running, or
Crazy people.
crazy, crazy people. But so much motivation all over.
Oh, yeah.
But you wouldn't do it again?
I think I'm done. I ticked it off in my life. Maybe ultra marathon, no, but again, only maybe once.
Nice. Final question: what are your future goals and final thoughts? What's next for you? What's your plans at BP? Have you got a vision to reach a certain level? Would you ever go back to sea? I mean, what's your plans for the future?
I think my sea times are gone. I got myself very comfortable in living in ashore now. Well, once a seafarer, always a seafarer. So who knows?
Yeah,
I
I
never
agree.
say that. But my goalpost was changing a lot, since I moved ashore. First, I was thinking, I want to become a charterer because they must be driving a Ferraris and all that kind of stuff. I had some stories. Well, reality is probably slightly different. But then I found about other parts and other options. So I wanted to be more in the technical space, or where I'm now. Throughout knowing so many people, I realized actually I'm doing very well with coordinating people and doing engaging in the teamwork. So I want to move further in like managing and managing roles. I would say the sky is the limit. So I wouldn't say I want to be a CEO of the company. It's maybe very I'm a bit too old for this one, but thinking about the example of people who made the transition at the chief officer level, they're like VPs in BP, or they're like directors in some companies. So I think that would be something which I will aim at progressing through the ranks, and yeah, let's see what future brings.
But do you think at this stage, Rob, obviously, they might be listening, but, being serious right now, do you think your future is with BP forever?
Oh, okay. Yeah, if they are listening, of course. Yeah, of course. Jokes on the side, I think you have to find the right employer, and I would just say it's not about the money, the salary. It's about the whole package of support that company gives you. So I would say BP is a very good company, but there is lots of other very good companies. You will very quickly recognize them, how they treat you, and probably a piece of advice if, don't waste your time for the, okay, maybe you shouldn't, it's not maybe advice for me because I never changed the company, but I met some people who were struggling and I don't like the job, I hate it. I will say, oh, you need to make some change. It's not like it, so find the right employee and stick to it if it's a good one.
Well said. Thank you so much for your time, Rob. Really respect the journey you've had, the messages you've had. I think any seafarer that's listening to this and thinking about transitioning to a shore-based role, I think just by listening to this conversation will feel a little bit more at ease. Thank you so much for giving me your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you very much and looking forward to your next podcast.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks. Bye.